Today's broadcast is being brought to you by Judge Joe Brown's Barbecue Sauce. Pick yours up today by going to www.jjbbbq.com. Again, www.jjbbbq.com for all your barbecue needs. Good evening and welcome everyone who has joined me for this very special broadcast with special guest, Honorable Judge Joe Brown, and we will be discussing the mayoral races in 3 states, also the gubernatorial elections of 2022, and protecting the integrity of your vote. So, without further ado, everyone please welcome the Honorable Judge Joe Brown.
All right.
Welcome,
How
sir.
are you?
I am doing well. Hopefully the storms are slowing down a bit for you. Thank you again.
Okay. The weather is the weather. It's really
Yes, it is. Well, thank you again for joining. So let's start off, if you don't mind, with the DC candidates for mayor. Now, right now it's Muriel Bowser, and in the past there was Fenty, Anthony Williams, Vincent Gray, and the late Marion Barry. In your opinion, who was the best for the city at that time?
Marion Barry.
And your opinion, and I did a story on this, if he were alive today and ran, is it your opinion that he would win by a landslide?
I don't think it went by a landslide because the demographics of D.C. have changed. It's no longer chocolate city.
No, it isn't.
A little different kind of color in it.
It is, especially
the big spectrum, that rainbow thing.
Yes. Do you remember Berry Farms when you were here in D.C.? What used to be Berry Farms?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that's
the last time I was there was about a year and a half. Well, about 2 years ago.
Yes. The city demolished it, and it's still not where they want it right now, but they're working on it. And that's in many areas. The wharf has changed. So, okay. So, Muriel Bowser and her run for 2023. What are your feelings on that? Another win? Or we have, let's see who the candidates are. I'll put that up real quick for you and everyone else.
That's you talking about Memphis there.
There we go. We have Muriel Bowser, Stacia Hall, Dennis Sobin, and Rodney Grant.
I know Mr. Grant. He's a friend.
Okay.
A comedian. He's also a scholar, and he's a very wise man. I think he would do well being the executive over the city management in D.C.
Okay. And you feel this way because?
He's a good guy. I mean, he's got what it takes.
Okay.
He's got the drive. He's got the perspective. He's got ideas, and he's not part of either party that's at war with each other, and he's an independent. That's a good thing, I think.
Okay. And do you believe that he'll get the financial backing that one needs?
The financial backing, to an extent, depends upon 2 things. 1, what you have going. 2, who it's appealing to. reality of the whole process is the more you're grounded with the people of the area you hope to represent, the less money you need because they already know you. Most
Okay.
candidates have to get firm name recognition, and he already has something of an end through his entertainment business. Now, I will say this: more than 40 some years ago, I was watching some proceedings in a court that were absolutely ridiculous, and I just had to walk out. The judge in there couldn't take it either. He walked out, asked me what I thought about it. I told him. He said, "You know, you have to take things with a sense of humor, otherwise, this will drive you crazy." He said, "But one thing that should be apparent, since we're talking about sense of humor," he says, "sometimes the best way of understanding something is to look at it through the eyes of a good stand-up comedian, because when you interject what good stand-up comedians bring to the process, you get insights that are profound, often quite necessary, and often provide the solutions that otherwise would have been overlooked." So I take that into context.
Oh, okay. So you think it'll be the two of them?
Well, I'm hoping it will be Red Grant. He's
Okay.
got what's necessary.
Okay.
I'll say this: convincing a jury to do something, oftentimes, if you made it a matter of humor, you were much more persuasive than if you did something else. And even now, if you use a sense of humor, you can get things across that are very candid, sometimes very harsh, but necessary. Whereas you would get all kinds of resistance about, "oh my God, he's hurting somebody's feelings." And in reality, so what? Some feelings need to be hurt. He's not being sensitive. I think we're too damn sensitive. Oh, wow. Somebody may be put to shame. Shame is good. Somebody may feel guilty. Guilt is good. They're great control factors when they come to guiding human conduct.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's move on to California. We have my notes here. Karen Bass and Rick Caruso.
Flip a coin.
Heads.
I would put it this way: the person with the greatest connection to what's been going on there ought to be the one you vote against. It's
So,
not being done very well. What's going on in Los Angeles, where I grew up and where
yes.
I was back in for 15 years with this show, or at least most of the year, every year, it's not being done well.
And that's
There
by
are too
Strickland.
many agendas that have nothing to do with good governance that are being pushed. And oftentimes, when that is the case, things fall and you get two thumbs down instead of two thumbs up. You don't get that. You get two thumbs down.
Okay, so with the thumbs, where is your thumb for? Jim Strickland.
You mean the stupid moron that's the current mayor of Memphis? He's an idiot. Doesn't have a damn clue. Get his ass kicked if he walked in half of the neighborhoods he's supposed to be representing. He got in because during his first run, we had a black incumbent mayor who was a former law partner of mine, A.C. Wharton. Mayor Wharton tried to please everybody and please no one. And he had 5 opponents, and Strickland was the only white candidate in the town that had that point had only 19.1% of the registered voters white. And he's been in since, and we have a problem in this county with hacked election machines, according to the Justice Departments under Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. Even though they say there was no election fraud, the Justice Department reports, annual reports on what's going on here, still reveal that these machines are hopelessly corrupted and easily hacked. And in fact, California used to use these so-called Diebold election machines, and they put a pamphlet out online on how to hack them.
Wow.
Oh, I mean, it's been this way for 20 years. They said there hasn't been a straight up legitimate election here since 2000. And I can understand that. So, in spite of all the Associated Press hype about we have determined, oh, the hell with you. Who are you to determine a damn thing? Most of you are undereducated little somebodies fresh out of school and don't have much life experience, and you sit around on, not you, but they sit around on leather sofas in the bar areas of five-star hotels, sipping Chablis, nibbling cheese and crackers, and trying to become into what's going on in the world, which they aren't and probably never would understand anyway. So it is what it is.
Okay. We're going to come back to that because there was a Harvard study on the integrity of votes. So we will do that. But let me make sure I have the correct one up for your opinions.
Anyway, Strickland, by the way,
yes,
is termed out, and they put a referendum on the ballot for this August election to extend his opportunities, and it was soundly defeated by the voters. They are tired, sick and tired, and revolted by the incompetence that we have had displayed by the city management for the last few years. The current mayor has a nickname, Poppin' Fresh Doughboy.
Poppin' Fresh Doughboy. Okay. All right. I will leave that one alone, and we will continue with Memphis. Van Turner weighs in.
He's got a problem here. County Mayor Lee Harris, he and his wife have been professors at Memphis State Law School for more than a decade, and they haven't done any pro bono work, and the school encourages it. So they are boule, as the young folks say. They don't have a clue. And again, they're in that category of they need armed guards to walk through most of the areas that they represent. So well, let's put it this way. If you were talking a major university's football team, they wouldn't even qualify. And if they were on a second tier team, they'd be on the bench. And the only time they'd get in the game is if they were at one of these backwater football schools, if it came to that.
Wow.
So the other thing is he's got enough baggage with what he's been trying to do to the county clerk's office, where he and the comptroller of the state have been commingling funds specifically allocated by the feds to that office for purposes of setting up shall we say, leverage with Ford Motor Company in its efforts to put an all-electric car factory 45 minutes from Memphis in a place known as Mason. They're going to have to employ 27,500 people in about 5 years and build a new city, small city of 150,000 people in that same time period. And there's a lot of money to be made, and looks like they're in on it too. There's another person you're going to come up with, Van Turner.
Yes.
And Van Turner's claim to fame is that Well, he and a Tammy Sawyer were on the county commission when they passed a resolution saying we want to get rid of Nathan Bedford Forrest's statue and Jeff Davis's statue. Those two statues are located in separate parks. One of them next to a museum right on the bluff at a bend in the river, very scenic, very, very high property values there. And the other one is right in the middle of the hospital, main hospital educational complex in Memphis for development purposes. It's quite a few acres. It's worth tens of millions of dollars as a developmental item, both properties. And he and his Confederate Sawyer managed to get a resolution passed to sell it to a so-called non-charitable entity that he chartered that has as its stated purpose the operation of city parks. So they got a resolution passed to sell the properties to this entity that he had incorporated for a net total of $2,500 for what is worth at least 10 or 12 million in the middle of the hospital complex, and for $2,500, and this is without bid, for at least the same value of property on the bluff. So he ought to give it back, and the city ought to come after him and exercise eminent domain and pay him the $2,500 and refer it to Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for prosecutorial purposes.
Do you think that will be something that will be done?
If I get elected to mayor, I surely will see to something being done, and I will also have the city attorney's office proceed with various and sundry lawsuits and proceedings to recover damages. Also, when they took down Nathan Bedford Forrest and Jeff Davis, they stored him in somebody's purported half brother's storage facilities acquired for less than $100 a month, but that individual was being paid several $1,000s a month to store the statues instead of immediately shipping them off to a Johnny Reb museum.
Wow. So would that individual you just spoke of be a culpable party as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have a long history here of elected officials getting caught up in stings and being prosecuted and or actually going to jail. And we need to be more intense with that, because too many of them I have seen from childhood to adulthood to becoming political, and their general outlook is, hey, all these other folk have been getting a lot of money. It's our turn to get the gravy now. And mine has always been, no, that's not your job. Your job is to deliver straight up effective governance. And it's not a matter of what you get out of it. It's what you do for the people that you represent. These people go to work. They pay taxes. They have a right to inspect or return for their votes. They are not here like they are tourists. And too much of what happens in this city, in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars, literally, is spent in a charade so that certain interests can, on return for paying a small percentage of their net profits to the city, which always gets zeroed out, so the city gets nothing back. The city pays for the development, and it's a freebie to the collective interest. Like, for example, there's a major hotel that wants to expand downtown. So there's another person who is a candidate, Paul something or another. I don't even know him. he's essentially a nobody, and he runs some downtown development. So the city has committed $240 million to financing this hotel expansion in an area that doesn't have anything but tourism. So I guess all the rest of the people that live here full time are supposed to be tourists. When they're driving down the streets, I guess they're not supposed to worry about damage to their vehicles from the decrepit condition of the roadways, because I suppose they're taking a taxi to the airport. When it comes time to expect a clean city, well, the areas where the tourists are, everything's nice and neat, but the rest of the city is filthy. When it comes time for us to have inclement weather or snow or ice, nobody expects to have sand and salt put down because, oh, they're tourists. They don't have to drive anyway. And the people who operate the taxis and the public transportation, oh, wow, they know how to handle it. And when there's violence, and Memphis has jumped up to being the most violent city in America, it already was number 5 behind LA, New York, Chicago, Dallas. It was Memphis, Houston, Miami, and then Detroit in terms of absolute, not just percentages or rate, but in terms of actual crime committed. Now it's up there, running Detroit and St. Louis for number 1 in terms of violent crime. So it has gotten absolutely pathetic. And one of the reasons is nobody in there right now has a clue, when they can't walk in a lot of the areas without getting behind whipped, without an armed escort. Now, I can't. And as a matter of fact, 30 some years ago, when I was on the criminal bench, I had some ideas, and I took advantage of the context of the state criminal laws that had just come into play in 1988 that encouraged the judges to use innovation in creating alternative sentences. I did. And over a 10-year period, they did a study on the matter. The statewide recidivism rate for felons of 80%, which was universal across the state, dropped to only 18% in my courtroom. And I had some things that I did that I had learned would work over the years, and they worked. And when I left the bench, that seemed to have gone out of the window, because some of the other black criminal court judges who were also doing these things either retired or died on everybody. So it was what it was, and the rest of them are just too damn lazy or non-thinking enough to come back up with the ideas. So it shot right back up, and everybody's talking about, oh my God, what are we going to do about the crime? Well, you need jobs, so what is the city doing to bring in jobs? Nothing.
But you
They
just
encourage
mentioned,
businesses to set up so they can get kickbacks, allegedly, but they hire temps who have no benefits. There's a scam going on with Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, and our inept 9th Congressional District Congressman, who slipped in again when the black congressman resigned to run for state senator, which he didn't have a chance at winning, but anyway, he did. So we had almost 16 black folk in the race for the Democratic Party primary, and they had one white guy who was the only white guy in the race, and he got in. And in 16 years, his main claim to fame is a binding resolution requiring the congressional cafeteria to serve only paper straws. So that's all he's delivered. I suppose environmentally that's good, but it doesn't do much for the people of Memphis. And one of his buddies got the new contract to supply energy to the local utility company. And it sounds good, but it's one of those deals closely akin to what you get with cell phone companies when it's only $19.95 a month. So some kid goes in and he thinks he's getting something and he's not wise to the ways of the world. And he starts getting $250 bills because it quickly adds up when he would have done a lot better getting a more comprehensive plan. Well, we have the mighty Mississippi River down here. And there is no earthly reason why someone shouldn't stick some hydroelectric turbines down in that river and tandem, put some baffles in to speed up the flow and deal with the maintenance and get free hydroelectric power generated in a green fashion that would not require the burning of any fossil fuels. And the surplus not only could be sold from New Orleans to Louisville to Chicago, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, Arkansas, and all points in between, it could bring in some serious industry. We have the largest barge unloading facility in the whole world located here. The Memphis International Airport delivers the highest commercial tonnage volume in the world. Usually Hong Kong is in second place. Sometimes they flip-flop, very seldom. FedEx is located here, UPS, the bulk mail center. A lot of distributors are here because this is the distribution capital of America. It's located right in the center of the transportation net. So stuff comes in on the East Coast, gets to Memphis, and then gets sent out elsewhere to Canada, USA, Mexico, and to the West Coast, you name it. So Europe and the Middle East have been trying to get directly in here, and they have this thing where they load up barges over there in the Mediterranean area and in Europe. They put them on ocean-going barge transports. They get them to the port of New Orleans, drop the rear hatch, float the barges out, bring them up to President's Island, this huge barge unloading facility, and they're 4.5 miles from the center of the American distribution net. So nobody is looking into expanding that, though I have had inquiries directed at me personally over the last 20 years that seem to be fended off because the people that are the Mr. Bigs here in a medium-sized pond would be very small fish in a very large pond. But nobody's looking at that. You've got Ford, who is making or going to be making electric cars in a few years. You've got Cadillac, who will be making a few in just a few years within 45 minutes of Memphis, and they have to get back into the transportation net. So instead of Memphis trying to encourage that to come in and get put on the barges or on the trains, they're talking some nonsense about letting it get shipped elsewhere before it gets into the transportation net. So I've got a way where we put these vehicles that are made within a 45-minute drive in traffic from Memphis, get them on these barges, get them back over to the Mediterranean, to Europe, and or go straight through the Mediterranean in the Suez Canal and get into Asia. And then instead of having, say, Toyotas, Mitsubishis, Nissans, etc., shipped from Japan or Hyundai from Korea to Long Beach Harbor in Los Angeles, we can cut 9,000 miles off the trip by sending it back through the Indian Ocean, the Suez Canal, the Mediterranean, it getting the stuff unloaded from the ocean-going barge transports in New Orleans and up here to Memphis, where the stuff has to get to from the West Coast eventually. So, wow, nobody's talking about that. You bring in a change in the police department. So instead of having these ineffective civilian oversight committees, you have civilian management of the police department. Like you do with, can you do that? Well, yeah, certainly. Look at the U.S. military. You've got a civilian secretary of defense, a civilian commander in chief, and you've got subsecretaries over the Army, Navy, Air Force, etc. Well, we need a civilian director over the police department. The boss is the mayor. And you have sub directors over sex crimes, uniform patrol, traffic, juvenile matters, burglaries, you name it. So we will deal with that. You need to start taking this money that they're spending on insanely wasteful projects where they've got somebody that doesn't have a clue as to what's going on running them and nobody's ever heard of them. You need to start doing stuff like putting sub precincts in neighborhoods, schools. You need to take, let's say we have some abandoned skating rinks, and we need to put some sub precincts in those where it will be a safety zone. And I don't think anybody's crazy enough yet to go down and try to shoot up a police precinct, so the kids will have some place to gather and somebody with some common sense. And there are a lot of people with that who would be quite willing to counsel some of the youth and give them man up training. And that, by the way, is the secret to my success when I reduced the recidivism. If you give this guy manhood, he looks in the mirror and he says, hey, man, did you do what you were supposed to do yesterday? Man, you going to do it today or you going to do it tomorrow? And see, he's got a cause. And he looks at himself and says, man, I feel deep shame and I feel guilt that I didn't do all I was supposed to do yesterday. So I'm going to do better today. And I'm going to prepare myself for what I need to do tomorrow. And you see, that always gives somebody a cause. No matter how bad it is out there, instead of, yo, man, just like respect, man. Like, I'm 22, man. I ain't going to make it to 24, 25, man. They're going to kill me, man. What I care, man. Well, then, young brother, you ready to be a hero since you already account yourself dead. And that means you don't need to go out and go try to not only commit suicide by a cop, but by a neighbor. You don't need to poison the people that live around you. You have nothing to lose. You can help make where you live peaceful. And by the way, there is this thing called the Second Amendment that says a well-regulated militia being necessary for the common defense, etc. Well, if I'm not mistaken, the common defense demands that something be done about this insane inner city violence. So why don't we get some retired first responders, veterans, good citizens who don't mind going to drill once a month and don't mind going out on patrol to take back their streets? So you get a community-based militia set up where you get good citizens who can take part in making where they live peaceful and peaceable and orderly, where you can start making it all right for people to say, hey, young lady, don't act like that. You don't need to be cussing and carrying on and acting like a damn girl-rilla, for goodness sakes. And then, young brother, we appreciate your enthusiasm for music, but we don't really want to hear it, so you don't have to share it with us from 4 blocks away. And oh, by the way, I'm sure you and Tomadika had a good time last night, but you don't have to share it with your homie on the other side of the parking lot while the ladies and children around. Show some respect. And meanwhile, let's get some real peace. I did binding contractual arbitration under U.S. and California law for 15 years. It was a #1 and #2, not just court show, but syndicated show. And it worked real well. Why can't we do something about putting peace back in the neighborhood by having the city sponsor some arbitration tribunals where licensed attorneys aren't permitted to practice, because that drives the cost up, so the ordinary citizenry can resolve their disputes in a coherent and orderly fashion without getting so angry and go bam, bang, bang at each other. See, we can do a lot of stuff. we can set up programs to deal with defraying the proffer of charges against juveniles and requiring that they and parents or guardians
Yes.
go through counseling programs, get them in vocational training, and do what I used to do, which is I counseled everybody that I let out on bond or put on probation or let out of jail. They'd have to come to Judge Joe's counseling sessions and we'd get real. And it seemed to work. I mean, if you were walking around Memphis with me now, you'd find that quite often people walk up, Judge, you remember me? No, sir, I don't seem to remember you. I don't recall anybody with all that gray in their beard and hair, you know. Oh, well, you gave me some time. Did I give you enough? Oh, yeah. But see, it was that man thing. Once I figured that out, I ain't never been back in no trouble, Judge. I got 4 children now. They all went to college and 6 good grandkids, and they doing well in school. And I got about 15 young boys in the neighborhood that I'm trying to teach what you taught me. Yes, sir. Can I shake your hand, please? You see, you have to, if you're going to be the mayor, you have to look at yourself as the village chieftain. Everything out there you're supposed to be responsible for in terms of leading the people. See, it's all about the people. Most folk don't get it, that it's not just about representing people. It's about leading people. And the way you lead is not go over there, not go over there. You follow me.
Yes.
Come along my way. And if I'm going to be the chieftain and get it together for you, we have to have law and order. We've got to have economic prosperity. We've got to have opportunity. And instead of everybody trying to get the hell out of Memphis so that you have to get an airline ticket to go see your kids and grandkids, they want to come back.
Yes.
See, Memphis used to be the queen of the South. It was located where this Tennessee Valley crossed the main water artery in the country, the mighty Mississippi. And now I-40 goes straight across here, and I-40 goes from essentially New York all the way down through Texas, out west, and transitions to another numbered set, but it's the same roadway in Los Angeles. So it's the main transcontinental thoroughfare, and there ought to be a whole lot going on around here, even to the point of public transportation. We've got these generators and you're getting freebie energy. Well, I've talked to the local bus companies and they say they'd love to convert to electric buses. And with that kind of thing, they're wondering why nobody has thought of it before. They could essentially provide free public transportation. So, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, but these idiots are just sitting on it, being uptight, being stuff-shirted. Oh, you know, I just bought my new shot. Don't you like? And a nice tie. And, you know, I'm only going to drink white wine, Chablis, so I don't put any stains on it. If I spill it at one of my tete-a-tetes, you know, where I sip Chablis and nibble cheese and crackers, you know, be real. And see, most of these folk don't have any credentials. We don't have enough lawyers who want to fight for their clients now. Folk think it's all about money and not give back. Nobody does any pro bono. Nobody takes these cases that would advance the cause. And there are a lot of them that need to be taken. They're scared of everything. I've got several locations around here, and one of them is real upscale. You know, I did have a pretty damn well-rated show for 15 years.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't on the bottom of the economic totem pole. But we had a little problem with some developers allegedly paying certain aldermen to deviate from the zoning protocol by a little campaign donation of $18,000 per person. And we were attempting to find a lawyer to do something about it. Now, most of the neighborhood's white, not all of it, but a lot of it is.
Mhm.
And one of them came, Jesus Christ, Judge, we can't find no lawyer want to take it. Maybe you can think of a black lawyer that might want it. We determined we was gonna pay about $1.5 million fee on this. Don't nobody want that. And these old guys were getting little chump change, and they were, well, we can't take that city on. I mean, oh my God, we don't want to ruin our careers. Fool, what do you think lawyers do to get a serious career but by taking on the giants and slaying them?
Absolutely.
Got to deal with the fire-breathing Gila monsters, and clean out the smoke and flames in the tunnels so people can see the daylight at the end. That's your job. Or did you think everything's all right? You see, we have too many lawyers now anyway, and most of them don't have any trial experience. And that's like, well, it's like going to see a doctor who's never been an intern or a resident. If you don't actually have hands-on dealing with convincing 12 folk on a jury, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And see, we've got that problem too, with too many judges on the benches and too many on the appellate courts. And I can remember this judge, an appellate judge now on the federal level, that judge's experience was they helped put a spouse through law school.
Mhm.
When family had 3 children, they went to law school. When they got out of law school, they took the bar and they passed the bar and got sworn in as an attorney. And 4 days after they were sworn in as an attorney, the governor of the state, his name at the time was Lamar Alexander, a former presidential candidate. He didn't give a damn about the citizens. He appointed this individual as a circuit court / superior court judge 4 days after they were sworn into the bar. And the first time this individual ever stepped into a courtroom was when they were sworn in as the judge. And then a certain president appointed this individual as a federal district court judge less than 2 years out of law school. So in both instances, the rankest rookie in the courtroom was the judge. Oh, and somebody else got appointed next before last to the DA's position. He was 2.5 hours late to be sworn in. You know why? He'd never set foot in the criminal courthouse before, but he's the new DA. See, that's what they do. And they've got all of these appellate judges who don't have the leavening of common sense, who have never had a client sitting on the other side of the desk from them that is a real person with a real person problem. And they've been law professors, corporate lawyers, and all this other stuff, but they don't deal with this Bill of Rights type stuff because they never dealt with it, and they weren't interested because it didn't make money. I mean, it's all about the dollar, I mean, who's interested in all of this poverty law and criminal law thing, I mean, it's absolutely the pits. And then we've got places, and I'll name one of them that it's an exemplar where you need some lawyers with some balls. Cobb County, Georgia.
Yes, Cobb County.
It
Can
is
you elaborate on that?
pathetic. Some of the worst travesties I've ever heard of in my 50 years of law have been occurring down there. And somebody, the feds, a DA, or somebody needs to look into it. They are really, see, one of the worst things in this whole legal profession is what I call the hallway queens and the hallway pimps. And they have law licenses, but they aren't very good at what they do. So they hang out in the hallways of these civil and domestic courts, and they get appointments. And they may know the judge, and the judge ensures that they wind up collecting the exorbitant fees that they assess. And they oftentimes wind up getting more money than the lawyers who are actually representing the parties get. And what they do is they pick whoever is most likely to have a deeper pocket than the other. That's who they shaft and ruin. And they don't care about child's interest or anything like that. It's, I'm trying to make money. And otherwise they wouldn't keep the doors open. And there are some people that I know have gotten elected to some benches that is like, oh man, I'm glad I don't even think about practicing law anymore. I couldn't stand being in front of one of these idiots. And then what black folk and other folk don't do when they vote, see, they don't pay attention to these judges because they're glamour positions and they like that. But they don't pay attention to the people that determine whether or not they can get a divorce, who gets the custody, what your child support is, what your visitation is, what the paternity is, all kinds of things. What happens with your children, and they show up on election day and they get a ballot handed to them. Well, you don't have that problem in D.C. since everything's appointed, but they hand the sample ballot to them and they trump in and they vote the sample ballot. We had an idiot that once I got elected, I used to cuss out on at least twice a month at a judge's meeting. He's a real live idiot, wacko. And he had been former Grand Dragon of the Klan, chairman of the White Citizens Council, but he got the black bloc vote every damn time he ran for re-election. We had a juvenile court judge in here from 1963. He was appointed because he was captain over the vice squad, and he blackmailed everybody because you knew who was screwing who and who shouldn't have been screwing who, and whether it was boy on boy, girl on girl, or boy and girl. And he stayed in as judge until 2006. And since 1982, he was not permitted to hear cases because guess what? The highest grade he ever completed was the 5th grade, and the state Supreme Court said you can't understand the arguments of counsel because you're too uneducated. So that would deprive somebody of the right to be represented by an attorney. So they left this bozo in. And a worse racist you never find. The first time I went to juvenile court 48 years ago, and I walked in, I'm from Los Angeles, and I've got this community lawyer fellowship, and I'm at this poverty law center, and I've got 5 clients. They asked me to go down to juvenile court. So I'm sitting down there watching this circus. This idiot is up there calling folk the N-word in court. And I'm saying, oh man, wow. So I just zoned out, started reading files. I just said, man, so I don't go off. So some fool shook me. Boy, you hear the judge talking to you? I said, who the hell you calling boy? And then he said the N-word. Don't you hear me talking to you? This is the judge. I said, who the hell you calling? I say, you honky? You know, I'm from L.A. This back early 1970 something. And, you know, we were going out, I'll lock you up, boy. I said, you ain't locking anybody up. You got $10 jurisdiction on me for contempt. I ain't on his goddamn docket. And by the way, I'm recording this and I'm reporting it to the State Committee on the Judiciary. When he found out I was representing folks instead of on his docket, he backed down. But see, that's the kind of mess they've had. And most of these folk are too damn spineless to take them on now. Now, we had another real live idiot who had taken his place, and somebody that's decent, not young, but he's a brother. In fact, he used to be the part-time public defender in my courtroom for a decade or so, and he did a damn fine job. He's now the juvenile court judge. And I think he'll probably bring some justice to the mix and set something else up besides a for-profit corporate entity whose main concern is generating profits for the stockholders. And you do that by making sure you've got future business, by making sure that you jack the families up. So instead of stop a juvenile crime. You encourage it. But you see, that's too much like right. So now maybe we'll do something. And we had somebody in here, a woman named Amy Wyrick, that we call the Were Witch. And Harvard, Yale, Stanford, etc. law reviews, the state Supreme Court, and other foundations have long declared her to be the most corrupt district attorney in the United States. Over the last 20 years, she personally has more findings of prosecutorial misconduct, not against her staff, but against her, than any other DA's office has collectively in the United States. She's a crook. And she was in, and was there going to be justice for anybody? No. See, that kind of thing needs to be stopped. And it was infecting the mayor's office, and that needed to stop. No, there was a fine gentleman named Dr. W.W. Harrington who was elected to 5 terms. And as a matter of fact, at one time I did some representation of him before he became mayor and before I became judge. That's another question. But when he got elected the first time in 1991, another judge, James Swearingen, and myself, we got called over to the Election Commission under a provision of Tennessee law that says a circuit court judge or a chancellor can act as an official election witness. And we got over there. They were trying to say that Doc, that's what we called him, lost by 96 votes. So they were saying that this DVD or CD that had the electronic record of the election results had been lost, but it had been carefully recorded. The janitor came home and said, "You gentlemen's looking for a little small silver record-like thing?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Yeah, it's over there in that desk on the left, second drawer down." I said, "Well, who put it in there?" And he identified them. So Judge Swearingen and I had our bailiffs over there in uniform, said, "Bring those identified individuals over here." Said, "Now look, you claim you don't know where these are, but let's just say a little bird says that you got seen putting them in, shall we say, that desk on the left, second drawer down. And if somebody were to go over there and find it, Judge Swearingen and I are disposed to put a $250,000 bond on each of you."
Wow.
Now, if you want to get sudden recollection of where it's put, "Oh, yeah, it just came to me. That's it. That's where it is." And they went over, and Doc won by 124 votes.
Wow. Wow.
And the city was getting ready to riot if he hadn't run. So it is what it is. Doc was an unusual guy. He's 6'7". And he had been former undefeated heavyweight champion, Golden Gloves boxing champion. And he tells this story about how he got his PhD. He was on his way to his first professional fight. He thought about it, and he said, "Well, I think I'll get this PhD and, one of those academic robes rather than a big belt." And he's a great guy. Every now and then I have a conversation with him. Now, Doc was an interesting mayor. He had a temper, boy, and he was famous for grabbing people by the collar and bam, didn't you hear what I got through telling you?
That is funny. Another thing, at least here in Maryland, judges that I've seen that are placed on the bench, they've been former ambulance chasers. What do you think about that?
I don't like it. If you want to be a judge, you need to be called, just like preachers. How did you mean? I got called to the pulpit. Yes, I did. One morning I was drinking a cup of coffee. Well, all of a sudden, there was this light that was in the upper left-hand corner of my kitchen as you was looking off. Yes, it was. So you need to be called. People, I ran for judge when people asked me to. See, in other words, you get a reputation over the decades of delivering justice. People want you to administer justice. Too
Right.
many of the people that want to run for judge, I always wanted to be a judge. Since when? Since I've been in the fourth grade. How the hell you want to be a judge and you don't know what it means? Have you ever paid a mortgage, car note, got any kids, anything like that? What do you know about this? Do you have any clients that you've had for a while and they're getting ready to die and you're wondering about whether the will that you wrote for them is really going to hold up, and you
Yes.
handled divorces and you've had murder cases and all of this other stuff? And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, somebody out there has committed a grievous offense against the people of the state of Tennessee and the county of Shelby. Somebody needs to be doing some time, some long time, but not my client. Oh, no, he is an innocent man. Presumed innocent is his honor's going to lecture you on. And if you convict him wrongfully, know that the true culprit is still out there preying upon you and yours. Yes, he is. You know what I mean? See, if you haven't gone there, you don't need to be sitting on the bench. That's like this new trend in sports. They're commentators on the sport who have no idea what the hell it's about because they never played. That's like, how in the devil are you going to be a referee or a coach or something and you've never played it?
Well, how much do you believe nepotism plays a role?
Well, it might. I mean, we do have these. We started off with President Adams, the other President Adams, and then we had Bush, and then the baby idiot Bush, and then we had his cousin, who was his vice president, and we had another cousin, Barry Soetoro, aka Barack Obama, who was a cousin. You see, you got all kinds of things. I don't like that. See, here's the other problem. Let's take our colored boy who was president, who liked to masquerade like he was one of us, who never got raised in continental United States, Hawaii, maybe mostly in Indonesia, and his stepdaddy who adopted him was Indonesian. Well, there was an interesting guy that I guess was kind of Superman. This guy died in New England a long time ago, but 7 of his descendants were U.S. presidents. One of them was a vice president of the United States, and that includes several current actors and billionaires, including Warren Buffett, Brad Pitt.
Whoa.
We have George Herbert Walker Bush is one of his descendants. We have George Walker Bush is one of his descendants. And through his mama, we have Barack Obama is one of his descendants. His name was Sam Hinckley. And Barack Obama's grandfather was first cousin, I believe, of George Herbert Walker Bush, Bush 1. So you've got 1, 2, 3 U.S. presidents who are cousins, 1 vice president who is a cousin, and all of them were alive at the same time. So that's a little strange, don't you think?
It is an eye opener.
But you see, by the way, another thing like that too is we tend to fall for fantasy.
Yes.
Example, who's the richest person to ever sit in the White House as president?
I can't even wager a guess.
Who? It's not Donald Trump.
George Herbert Walker Bush?
No, Barack Obama, a.k.a. Barry Soetoro. his mother married Lolo Soetoro, who was at one point executive vice president for Standard Oil, international executive vice president. Indonesia sat on what were once believed to be the world's largest oil reserves. Lolo Soetoro was also an officer in the Indonesian Army Reserves, and he ran the death squads. There were allegedly warrants out for his arrest from The Hague for mass murder. But at the time they wanted him, the U.S. allegedly did not allow the warrants to be served because he was operating what? The spy agencies for the U.S. operating in North Korea, Cambodia, Laos, North Vietnam, and the People's Republic of China.
It makes sense.
Now, the other thing, too, is he was married to the daughter of the CIA chief's first cousin. Now, who might that be? That was Barry Soetoro / Barack Obama's mama was the daughter of George Herbert Walker Bush's first cousin. George Herbert Walker Bush wound up being chief of the CIA under Jerry Ford. So it's an interesting thing. And the grandmother on the maternal side, she was the vice president of the Hawaiian Bank that is now acknowledged to have distributed the CIA's funds in the Southwest Pacific during the time interval in question. So you never know what you want to get. And I think Business Insider reported for 2018 that for 2017, if I'm not mistaken, Barack Obama reported, after all expenses and taxes, a net of $570 million as his income for that year. He got his first draw from his trust fund, which is an Indonesian trust fund that is exempt from American law. His stepdaddy / adopted daddy made him one of 3 equal beneficiaries to that trust fund. The other 2 are his 2 half siblings, one of whom is now dead. So a collection of nieces and nephews get 1/3. The surviving sibling gets 1/3, and he gets 1/3, and they're heavily invested in British Petroleum. Well, remember the Gulf rig blowout when I think the feds, if I recall correctly, indicted 23 BP executives? Well, I wonder why he immediately pardoned them before they even got arraigned. Did it have anything to do with his trust fund being a major investor in British Petroleum?
I'm sure that has a lot to do.
Well, yeah. And did it have anything to do with George Herbert Walker Bush, President Bush 1, founding Zapata Oil and Zapata Offshore Oil, which were oil exploitation concerns, Offshore Oil Inc. being a holding company? And what happened with what went on when Saddam Hussein, naughty, invaded Kuwait in 1990 and nationalized all of the corporate entities, which since Zapata Offshore Oil Inc. was incorporated in Kuwait, that made the Bush family rather destitute. And since we're talking about British Petroleum by the other family member, Barack Obama / Lolo Soetoro, let's talk about Anglo-Persian Oil. 51% acquired by the British government in 1922 at the urging of the Winston Churchill, who had sent Lawrence, known as Lawrence of Arabia, they did a movie about him,
Yes.
to the Middle East to find some oil-rich area that could be subjugated by the United Kingdom because England had let their stem science, technology, engineering, and math capability slide, and they built a whole fleet of ships that somebody stupidly forgot were going to be shooting very heavy shells at long distance at.
Mm-hmm.
They come in, they come down at a steep trajectory, and that means they'll hit the decks, and they didn't really armor any of the decks because somebody was operating like the shells are going to go out in a straight line, which everybody knows they don't, except the guys that design these ships. So in order to make the British fleet safe after it got shot up in a battle with the Germans in World War II, they needed to convert from coal to oil. So what were they going to do? Well, they sent Lawrence of Arabia out to find an oil-rich area. They did, which was in the south of Iraq. And what wound up happening is Churchill urged British Parliament to buy a 51% share of Anglo-Persian Oil Company. And then he sent in the Royal Marines in 1922, where they invaded and they lopped off the south of Iraq, which is now known as Kuwait. Now, what is Anglo-Persian Oil Company? You know them as those green signs with the yellow B
BP.
and P, British Petroleum now.
Wow.
So, I mean, is it a conspiracy? I don't know, but it's a hell of a coincidence, isn't it?
Well, I don't believe in coincidences, but that's just me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't figured out by now, running for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee is the Honorable Judge Joe Brown.
And we have a saying, JJB 23.
JJB
Judge
23.
Joe Brown 23. The full one goes, JJB for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee in 2023. Send Brown downtown and take back your town. Or send Brown downtown and take back the town. We can go that way. So I do two things these days besides getting on people's nerves. I sell sauce. You know about that.
Yes, and I have to
service.
say it is amazing. And audience, I'm not joking. You saw me do my zucchini meatballs. Now I'm vegan, so I don't know if you're going to have any type of thing going for a vegan
Yeah,
line.
we are. We're for vegans. We're going to have what do they call it? Beyond Beef. The vegan stuff that tastes so much like real hamburger. We're going to make some links with that. And for those who don't eat beef or pork or anything like that, you might want to put the sauce on. Well,
Oh,
we have
yeah.
chicken. They are hot and they're mild. They're smoked and they're raw. You can get those. And oh, by the way, sisters, you'll like this one. The owner and operator of the meat packing plant that does those is a sister, and she operates the only black-owned meat packing plant in California that's USDA certified.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
it's good stuff. And if you're in Los Angeles, go to 79th and Western. Now, that's down in the hood, I warn you. And at the corner, and I grew up in walking distance of there, walked by there on many occasions. But that was a long time ago. But 79th and Western, there is a place called D's, as in Delta, D's Original Takeout Grill. Chef Damon, who caters a lot for black Hollywood and music industry celebrities, he's the chef. He and I collaborated. He made it healthy and suitable for vegans like you, because when I did my version of it that we combined, it had all those unhealthy things in it when vegans get to talking about stuff. And by the way, you can put it on greens, the sauce, and the seasoning we have. And there's this other thing. If you want a substitute for Bloody Mary, instead of getting tomato juice with Tabasco and vodka, you can get the sauce. You water it down a little bit, add ice, and a couple of good shots of vodka, and sprig of celery, and you can chase the dog with a little of the hair from the dog. I call it a hot Mary instead
A
of
hot
blood.
Mary. So can you
Hot-
give that recipe one more time, please? I'm
In
sure
other
there's
words,
quite a
take
few.
the sauce, thin it out a little bit with water, pour it over ice, add a couple of shots of vodka, and put some celery in it, and you're good to go. And see, we're going to have 2 more sauces shortly. The original that you have,
Yes, it's so good, everyone. Trust me, I wouldn't lie.
and we
Especially
have the OG coming out, and the hot or spicy. So we just got orders for quite a few hundred pallets that are going to be on the shelves in some retail establishments in California. And there's a certain big retail establishment that's online that delivers an electric vehicle that we just gave them clearance on. So it's going to be there. And you can find it a lot of places. Now, if you're going to order it, get the 3 bottles, particularly if you live on the East Coast, because the shipping costs are very high back there. They're not the same in the rest of the country. I don't know what they're doing with you guys, but
actually, it was
now
affordable.
somebody said no tough talk, but no actions. What the hell do you think I was talking about police reform, juvenile reform, community courts, communications, that kind of thing, power, industry? What do you call that? Tough, good talk, but no actions. What are you talking about?
I
You talking
think
about
he's
in my
referring to
background?
others. Yes, others, not you. Others
Okay,
that
not
are in
me.
office.
Thank you. And by the
Yes,
way, I have another model for why I know this stuff will work. I've been doing it for a long time.
yes.
My brother, the late Dr. Clifford Stewart, grandmaster of all kinds of martial arts, that Black Belt magazine repeatedly called the most dangerous human alive in North America. Another colleague of ours, Ron Chappelle, Dr. Ron Chappelle, another martial artist. We ran a playground in Los Angeles at Trinity Avenue Elementary School, which was about the worst in the whole district until we took over. We got it going on. And the 3 of us would take 200 kids from kindergarten through 7th grade to the movies once or twice a week. We got the University of California to provide transportation, and just those 3 young men would keep 200 children so quiet in a movie house that the patrons didn't even realize they were in there. And we got to getting them together. Now, 2 of the kids we had on the playground are known. One of them, the late singer with the deep voice, Barry White.
Very
I
white.
remember him as a little skinny 12-year-old kid on the playground.
He was skinny?
Yes. And they put his age up quite a bit because he had a deep voice. Another one, unfortunately, was the last person executed on California's death row. That was Tookie Williams, who was one of the co-founders of the Crips. Now, Tookie was a smart kid. He was one of our volunteers. I think he was about 14. We tried to get him out of the swamp, but his mother, I don't know, she didn't see eye to eye with us, so we couldn't get him out of the swamp. So Tookie just became the baddest ass alligator in the swamp. And he wound up being the last person executed on California's death row after he wrote 6 children's books that should have gotten him a commutation of sentence to life. And he was basically conveying what we had been teaching him. Now, the other thing about that is we understood what it took to get youth together. And it's nothing new. They've been doing it for thousands of years. They did it with the Roman legions. They do it with the Marine Corps. We did it with this playground. We got results. And we have quite a few graduates from that playground who Some are now dead of natural causes and old age, but they did a lot in California. We recruited people to UCLA. And I mean, it ranges from people who did a whole lot for their communities who got through UCLA to maybe some that you've heard about otherwise. I personally recruited John Hudgens and Bunchy Carter. They were two Panthers that the
Bunchy
US
Carter,
organization gunned down in the cafeteria when I was in the building at high noon in front of 40